Hello everyone, welcome back to another short video of a new build that I would like to call the Blademaster. This build can be played in two different versions, one being the Blademaster, which is what I'm going to be showing you extensively throughout the Crucible, and another one that I would call the Blade Dancer. The differences between the two are minimal, and I will go through that as we finish up the build components. So without further ado, let's get to the build components. The build was obviously inspired by Winnick's armor set, the Taleweaver set. This is a full leather set, so it doesn't have as much damage mitigation as most other builds that I do. The main weapon is Sinew, which is in my opinion probably the best unique weapon you can get your hands on. It comes with 4 runes, Piercing Spin, which does a 360 attack around your character. This is a double attack, so it's 2 parts in its execution. Second is Piercing Flurry. This is an attack that executes a number of attacks directly in front of you. The difference between the two is that Piercing Spin uses a lot less focus and it's the mainstay of your main combo. Piercing Flurry, I would use it whenever I need to regain my health in a short period of time. Channel is used to sacrifice health for focus, and Pulse of Health will heal your character for a moderate amount, I believe 40 points. The weapon comes with lifesteal. Therefore, you do not need to add any lifesteal to this weapon or the build at all. Do remember that lifesteal is a function of damage dealt, meaning lifesteal equals the damage you deal to the enemies times lifesteal coefficient times your percent heal increase. What that really means is that if you're not doing enough damage, you're not going to be healing either. So because this build is also a little bit lacking on the top end, you need to focus on increasing your damage as much as possible. Also, another point about build is that because I'm focusing on physical damage, I do not have as many affixes to boost it up, so as much damage as you can get is the aim here. For your offhand, you're using Glimmering Bulwark. Glimmering Bulwark has a very important affix called Enlightenment. This works in tandem with increasing your damage. If you activate your Enlightenment after a parry, you get a 20% damage boost and focus gain increase, which helps you execute your combo easier, more efficiently, and with a lot more damage. The headgear is a Vagabond skull cap. Before I go through the rest of the armor set, I'll let you know that all the gems that I'm using in the armor are not mandatory. They are all based on personal preference and playstyle. I was running this build without any gems in my armor for 2 days and I did not notice any shortcomings. The gems obviously did improve the performance, but they are not mandatory. You can change these to suit your playstyle. On the helmet, I have focus gain increase, damage taken decrease, healing increase based on durability, stamina recovery based on durability also, and indestructible. Then I have drain health in combat because you will barely notice it. On the armor, I have max health increase, damage taken decrease, focus gain increase, and poise increase while charging. That's because you will use your charge attack to close distance quite often. And it's an integral part of your playstyle, my playstyle at least. And then you have indestructible and unrepairable combo. For your gloves, you will go for focus cost reduction, focus gain increase, healing increase based on durability, physical damage increase, and indestructible unrepairable combo. For your pants, stamina cost reduction, damage increase after dodging, damage taken decrease based on durability, and focus increase based on durability, and again, indestructible, unrepairable combo. The rings are Jade Ring, Willow Cap Ring, and Agility Ring. All have plague resistance on them, and the other resistances are, as always, split 3 ways. If you are missing any of these rings, or if you are just starting out with the build and you are trying to get acquainted with it, 2 viable options are Stone Tusk Ring and Band of Calmness. Before we move on to the next section, Battered Buckler is also a good replacement for Glimmering Bulwark if you do not have that shield yet. You can also go with the bow and try to replicate the affixes on the bulwark that I have. Anything that will give you increased damage to your rune attack or your normal attacks, this is preferred. Anything that will damage mitigate further is also preferred, and stamina reduction, cost reduction, or stamina gain is also really good. Now, I would call this an advanced build for 3 main reasons. One, the main weapon and the offhand weapon are both uniques. Sinew is a drop from the Crucible and or from the Pestilence bosses. Glimmering Bulwark is also a drop from Crucible. You can also find yourself a blueprint that will allow you to craft this. Now, that blueprint is also rare. I've only seen it once in all my playthroughs. The other reason why I would say this is an advanced build is because this build will require you to be cognizant of enemy movesets. You need to also be deliberate with your own movement. You need to restrain yourself from button mashing, and you need to be careful about your spacing. For these reasons, and added to the fact that the build is a fully leather set, and if you do not have everything exalted, you will be right around 39% damage reduction, which doesn't leave you a lot of leeway to take damage. And if you do take damage consistently, you will really feel it. And no matter how much lifesteal you have, if you cannot return damage because you're taking too much damage, build will fail. For these reasons, I would say this is an advanced build. However, this is also a beginner-friendly build. I used Sinew while leveling up my character from level 1 up to 30. And in all stages of the game, because of the combo that I mentioned earlier, it gives you a lot of agency over controlling the enemies around you. I would also like to mention that the build does rely heavily on your ability to parry, at least the bosses. There are enemies in the game that are very hard to parry, and you should recognize those, and that's why I've incorporated damage boost based on dodging. Those are the enemies you don't want to be trying to parry, but there are enemies that are easy to parry, and you want to take advantage of that, especially bosses. Other than that, if you do commit to this build and spend a little time exploring the underlying mechanics of the game, the combat mechanics that are often overshadowed by the current state of the game where you have overtuned builds that completely ignore enemy movesets and do not require you to really care about any of those underlying mechanics, you will start to really enjoy it. Also, one of the reasons why I decided to go with physical damage over another infusion like lightning was because I wanted to keep the build clean visually while you're playing. This is kind of an important point that often gets overlooked. Without all these effects on your screen, it will be a lot easier for you to track the enemies, to look at their movesets, and try to learn. That's pretty much it, as much as the build explanation goes. And the last point was the differences between Blademaster and Bladedancer. The only differences are the, the Bladedancer version will be using the fast weight limit. And The only difference this will make is that it will have a little bit of a difference on your lunge animation following a dodge or a hop. And that's it. It's quite cool. Gives you a lot of mobility, but this will come at the cost of either survivability or damage reduction, because you're going to have to take some points out of either your vitality, your stamina, or your weapon requirements in order to get that done. Anyways, that's it. The only other thing before we mention, before I start the Crucible run, you need to realize that the build requires you to be very deliberate with your motions, with your movements, and with your attacks. I will try to demonstrate this as much as possible within the Crucible. One last thing before we get to the Crucible, your charge attack covers an incredible amount of distance. Therefore, this is what you will be using in order to get to your enemies. We don't want to run as much as possible, because that will waste a lot of stamina. And your knockback attack, the spin attack, will knock enemies quite a distance away from you, but you will use your charge to get them. Anyways, let's get to the Crucible run, and I will try to reinforce these points as we go through the Crucible, and hopefully you'll enjoy.
All will be unspoken.
So that's the basic combo. You can knock them down, hit them twice, knock them down again. I think the only enemies that don't get knocked down easily... That was cheap. The only enemies that are harder to knock down than others are the Sheath Knights, because I think they have a lot more poise, but I'll show you on this guy. You can't even get up. And this works on basically any enemy out there. If you have enough focus to execute it, you'll have an easy time dealing with almost any enemy that's out there, well, except for the bosses. Another thing I'd like to mention about this build, and we talked about being deliberate with your motions. Use your attacks as distance closers. Don't try to run after the enemies. The charged attack movement on this particular weapon is amazing. I had to dodge there because I wanted to get out of the blast zone, but I'll try to show you how very little do you need to depend on. You don't really need to run after the enemies. That's the point. Another thing I forgot to mention, and I used this to my advantage when I was leveling up with this build. This build is the star of knocking enemies off edges. If you've been peeved by enemies knocking you off ledges, this is the build to get your revenge back on them. You need to spend very little on running around. I mean, very little stamina. Well, not unless the auto aim decides to screw you. It's amazing. I can't get enough of this build, and the fact that there aren't any effects on the screen while you're playing just makes it a lot more enjoyable for me. It's a lot more of a visceral engagement. Okay, I don't want to do that. Get back here. I swear to God, if I jump there, he's gonna hit me and I'm gonna fall off. Get back! Wow. Got you that time. I don't know, if you enjoy this style of play, you know, a little bit of melee, and I'm not trying to shit talk people who like the ranged characters. I think part of the beauty of this game is that in theory it allows for any kind of play style to be viable. And I guess to a certain extent, almost everything is viable. There are certainly builds that are better than others, but okay, this is a bit of a predicament. Okay, I need to pay attention and actually play. Sorry, I got a little carried away. I got a little too confident in my abilities and I almost mucked it up. But that's exactly what I meant. You don't have a lot of room to make mistakes. This is a great build to remind you that normal enemies can be the end of you. Just use your charged attack to follow up on your knockback. Don't run after it. Your charged attack is a lot more efficient at getting to the enemies that you've knocked back. The rune attack also covers behind you. It's a full 360. So if you've got an enemy like in that situation that you saw, approaching you from behind, His build is really challenging my ability to talk and perform at the same time. And if you're new to the channel and you have never seen this chest before, there it is. It's always in this room, and usually it's full of garbage. I was gonna show you the lockdown combo, but the echo triggered and he died. Yeah, I shouldn't have taken that echo. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's see if we can find anything good. That's it. Ooh, good. Oh, I got greedy. I got a little greedy there, and I got a little too confident in myself, but we pulled it off. I don't have to redo the video. That's all that matters. Anyways, this was the Blademaster build. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like the fashion sense that it brings to the table. And I hope you can replicate it for yourself and get to enjoy the underlying mechanics of parrying and dodging and being a little bit more engaged with the enemies than other builds would require you to. Again, you can definitely build this around any other elemental infusion that you like. This will work fantastically with electric damage, but I wanted to do a physical damage build, something clean, nice to look at, a little bit more visceral, and that was the result. If you've stayed this long and watched everything, thank you for your time, and hope to see you again in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.